Here we are, live. So, does keeping your team accountable look like you chasing people down to get them to do their job? So, today we're talking about how to keep your team accountable without wasting your time hand-holding or dragging people to success. Because I know that you are tired of doing that. And frankly, who has time? My name is Melissa. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. And I work with leaders, influential leaders, experienced leaders who are going from good to great, who are looking for more advanced strategies, who are looking for people-centered strategies that help them build a high-performing team, build a culture that people are excited to be a part of, and build the structure so that people can take more initiative and take their own self-responsibility. So if that sounds good to you, tune in. We're going to be covering some ground here when it comes to accountability. It's one of those juicy topics that I love to talk about. Joining me today is Kelsey-Ann Balcom. Kelsey-Ann is, I call her my right hand. But really, Kelsey-Ann is my partner in my business. She's a partner more than an employee. And as a partner, she takes care of my marketing, my PR, and she is the one that coordinates things like today. Kelsey-Ann, is there anything that you want to add here about yourself or share about yourself?
I guess I just wanted to add on these lives, I tend to offer the employee perspective. And that's how I generally contribute.
Yeah. And super important to get perspective. So I share things from a consultant and a coaching perspective. I share things from a leadership and management perspective because I have been both and I am both. And Kelsey-Ann brings in that employee perspective. What's happening on the ground? What else should we be thinking of as we're building our people-centered strategies? So on the topic of accountability, let's kind of like start by opening up the box. When we hear the word accountability, what comes up?
When I think back to like my time in the corporate world, accountability was like, oh crap, what's coming down the pipe that's going to fall on my plate that I can't handle? Right? It always felt overwhelming, suffocating. You knew you were probably getting more than what you could handle. It didn't really feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, from my perspective, what happens when I think about accountability, or at least my previous self, when I was thinking about accountability, what would come up would be like, oh my God, like I'm going to have to put in time to take care of them and make sure they're doing the work. So it felt like more time, the weight of responsibility. But what's true as an employee is that you're responsible for your work, right? You have your set of, this is my role, this is what I need to accomplish, and you're responsible for that work. As you transition into management, okay, so let's say you become a manager of a team, you are now responsible for your work and you're responsible for everyone else's work. And you don't quite understand the weight of that until you make the transition and you're 2 feet in it and realize that this is on you. And when your team is not performing, you are the door that will be knocked on.
Mm-hmm.
And Kelsey-Ann, you are making that transition into management right now. So you're definitely managing a department, and at times you are leading others. There are other people that are contracted out or being engaged in the team to help you on your projects. So how has that transition been for you? What have you noticed?
I think I've noticed that, like, my past self versus myself now. Now I think of accountability as like stepping up into my role, and I'm wanting to take over, not take over, but take self responsibility for things on my plate. I feel like I can communicate when it might be overwhelming, or I don't know if this all fits on my plate. There's definitely like a two-way street communication, where before it was totally like one way, and you just kind of had to take it.
So if you had been making that transition from employee to manager in a different environment, knowing what you know now in in that role, what do you think that would have looked like or felt like for you?
Um, Going back without having the EQ and choice theory knowledge that I do now, I would have definitely been overwhelmed. Um, is that it, like, okay, so that's what I'm just wondering to make sure that I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
I also think that I wouldn't necessarily have received enough data or asked enough questions to understand what I'm actually, like, what is actually getting put on my plate, versus now I would be very careful and cautious of to ask those proper questions to make sure that I'm understanding and agreeing to, you know, a specific scope of work.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think ensuring that I maintain those boundaries, where before yeah, I can do it all. I can do it all. Well, I can't do it all.
Yeah. And so accountability is important. So this is the first point I want to make. That accountability like is important. It's part of execution. So when I measure a team, I'm measuring for 5 drivers. Out of those 5 drivers, there is one quadrant that's execution. And inside of execution, we have accountability. Okay. So accountability is part of a high performing team.
Mhm.
But what you were talking about, Kelsey Ann, is that we do accountability very different here.
Mhm.
And if I can highlight what that difference is, so high level,
Mhm.
the difference is that we're approaching accountability from a place of internal control rather than external control. Okay, so this is point number 2. So when accountability is important, 2, it's important to make that transition from external control to internal control.
Mhm.
External control means you are using external motivators to get people to do the work. So those external motivators could look like financial, any type of reward, any type of punishments, sending emails to remind people to do the work, being on top of them, chasing them down, knocking at their door, telling them they're doing something wrong, telling them that they're not on time. So any variation of that, any time that you are doing something outside of the person, and that is what creates the motivation to do the thing, that's external. Internal means the desire, the choice, the want to do the work comes from the inside. And when it comes from the inside, what happens as a leader and as a manager?
More connected. They're more connected and you're more connected because there's emotions and feelings behind all of it.
So the emotion and the connection is it's the method, if you will, to create that. But the outcome is I don't need to be present for the work to be done. I don't need to manage, monitor, or force anything. That means time, focus, less stress, more trust. Beautiful things. Beautiful things that you might be seeking. And those are the beautiful things that all my clients are seeking. And it's really interesting when I start working with people, one of the desires on the list, one of the top things as we're making like, what is the short list of what you want to get out of the work together, is I need to keep people accountable. And it's not a lack of putting effort towards accountability, but it's more moving, shifting how we're doing it so that it's actually effective. And that shift is from external to internal. Make sense? Was that point number 2 or number 3?
I think that was point number 2. Yeah.
All right. Number 3. So if you're moving from external to internal, how do you do that? What's different? What does that look in action? So we talked about why, we've talked about how. Now we're going to talk about the what for all those Simon Sinek fans out there. So Kelsey-Ann, think about what is different, because we do a whole lot of accountability here. What's different from the accountability that you've experienced in the past and the accountability that you've experienced here?
I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed that's different is I am not micromanaged like I have been in previous positions. And it always pops into my head, the take your place and only your place and all of your place from Giselle. That, that always kind of pops into my head, that you really enable all of our team members to take that space and be accountable for that space. And it's not a bad thing. Like, it's never in a negative light, I guess.
So how you feel about that?
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
About taking all of my place?
Yeah. So
Feels
the
good.
way that we keep the accountability. So when you say good, give me some more feeling words.
It feels rewarding. It feels like I'm contributing. It feels like I am acting like a partner that you think I am, right? That I am contributing as equally. Yes, I'm not delivering to clients, but I'm doing what I can on the other side. Where before it was, when you're micromanaged and the confidence isn't there behind the manager and your capabilities, then you start second guessing yourself and your capabilities, even though you're good, you're solid. But then it's like, well, if they don't think I'm solid, well, maybe I'm not as solid as I think I am.
Yeah. And it's easy to go back into the micromanaging because as the manager, you've done all the things, you know all the pieces, and there is a fear that something's going to get missed.
Mhm.
And you are coming from that perspective. So it's very easy to want to step in, to want to say, did you do this? Did you do this? Can you show me that? Da 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 da. Right.
Yeah.
And we do it of good heart, wanting to prevent issues, wanting to prevent bugs, wanted to prevent um, something that might get missed.
Hmm.
And so we do it from a place of managing risk and wanting people to succeed. But in doing it, we're actually preventing the person from actually taking ownership
Hmm.
and learning and failing forward. I call it failing forward because we learn the best when we have these micro failures and move it into the future. And now this
Hmm.
person is never going to forget the thing again. But that is hard when you are responsible for so many things and you want things to go well and you want your employees to succeed. So the why we do this behavior is coming from a very good place, but as an employee, the interpretation and the how it feels is micromanaging.
Hmm.
And then the employee thinks they don't trust me. And then they start doubting themselves often. And then if they start doubting themselves, maybe I shouldn't be stepping up. Maybe I shouldn't take the risk. And all of a sudden they're backing off from the responsibility and giving it back to you. And by doing more of the micromanaging, and I'm calling it micromanaging, it's not the experience when you're a manager and you're checking up on all the things, you're not thinking I'm going to go micromanage the person. But as we're doing this, we're kind of allowing that responsibility to fall back on us. So we're not holding nice, clear boundaries
Hmm.
when we're engaging in that behavior.
Hmm. And what I've noticed is it doesn't feel good not to be able to hold your own boundaries, but it also doesn't feel good when somebody oversteps your boundaries and then assumes that you don't know, or they don't. It basically, you have that assumption that they don't even care about your boundaries, and that's why they're stepping over them to try to solve or fix or whatever, which doesn't feel good as an employee.
Yeah. So there's a lot here. And if you're sitting here and this is kind of resonating and you might be going like the oops, last week when I was stressed, maybe this thing that I did, completely normal. When I'm stressed, I fall into my bad patterns. Kelsey Ann can attest to this, that I will send crazy wound up messages and I'll start asking a ton of questions. And it's really stress will create this tendency to fall into old patterns.
Yeah.
And the more you can practice the new ones, the stronger they will become. But there will be a tendency when stress is here to fall back into the old pattern. So what's
Yeah.
important is that you build up the skills very intentionally so that you can be more in control of yourself and how you're setting up accountability.
Hmm.
And those are the skills that I teach, and I help my clients actually build up and practice in my 8-week leadership development program, the Executive Edge. So I want to highlight 4 key pieces of accountability here. So if you're watching and you're like, wow, this is all good stuff, but I still want to know, like, what are the recommendations? I did line up a few things that I want to leave for you. So grab your pen and paper, take some notes. And Kelsey Ann, these should feel, as I'm speaking about them, they should feel very familiar to you. You might be having this like, oh, that's what we're doing. So point number 1 is create connection points with your employee or your team where you're engaging them to choose the next steps, to choose the task, to choose the work. They need to opt in. So it can't be you pushing it on them. It needs to be them picking it up.
Mhm.
Okay, as a metaphor, you're not pushing it down, they're picking it up.
Mhm.
Okay, and so those connection points, especially if we're talking accountability, they should be scheduled in and at intervals.
Mhm.
Depending on the work, that could be once a week. In times of maybe big projects, it might be more than once a week, or if it's a long-term project, maybe it's once a month. Like, you can decide what those touch connection points
Yeah.
are, but connection points. 2, you're going to need a communication strategy that increases transparency and increases alignment to achieve things together.
Mhm.
Transparency is an important key to accountability. So if we have transparency, and I'm going to give you some examples here. If we don't have transparency, I'm going to ask Kelsey Ann, did you do the thing? And she's going to say yes or no. But when we have transparency, I can ask Kelsey Ann, hey, I know you've been working about this project. Give me an update. And if we have the transparency and I'm working my communication process in the right way, Kelsey Ann will let me know what I need to know. And if she missed something in her report, I can say, oh, you didn't talk about this piece. That's something that, that's been on my mind. Can you elaborate on that piece? And she's going to tell me exactly where she is, how she's thinking, how she's moving through the thing. So it's not me going to look at all the things and investigate. It's her keeping her ball. So if you can imagine that in that connection point, there's an exchange. She's picking up a ball. She's keeping her ball. And she's telling you about the ball. She's reporting back to you. You're not investigating her. She's reporting back to you.
And it
Sounds
doesn't feel, yeah, it doesn't feel like an interrogation when you're like, can you give me an update? It's not like, did you do this? That feels like an interrogation.
Yeah.
Tell me about the update. Oh, doesn't feel like an interrogation.
Yeah. The next piece is you want to create systems. And now this looks different for every team, depending on how you work, where you're at, what type of team you are. There's a lot, so I'm not going to dive deep into this, but you want to create a supporting system that enables your team to constantly keep their ball and take care of their ball and report. And they can choose to pick up another ball. That's when initiative comes in. Oh, I can see that there's a ball associated with my ball. I'm just going to pick that up and make sure that's done. And I'll report back. I'll let you know that this ball has been taken care of. I've added this to my plate. Okay, but they need a supporting system, which can look like tools. It can look like something that enables the flow of communication. It can look like reporting. It can look like a task management system, but it can also look like values. It can be part of, and it should be part of how you set up your meetings. So creating those supporting systems that nurture the accountability, the initiative, and the self-responsibility. And fourth, creating not only a self-managed team, but a team that likes to work together, an environment where it feels good to work together, to achieve great things. There are reward. It feels good. You get, personal wind from doing it, but you'll also get to feel like you're contributing. You said this earlier, Kelsey, and you feel like, ooh, I can feel proud of myself. I accomplished this thing and I contributed to something bigger than myself. This can be, I contributed to the team, I contributed to the company, I contributed to society in some way, but my work matters. And together we can create an atmosphere where it feels really good to work together. And we can all have these nice boundaries so we can all, pick up our balls and take care of our balls. Another way that I talk about that at In Charge Coaching is I say we have kingdoms. We're all queens, we're all women here. Very open to men working here. It just happens that we're all women, but we say we're queens of our kingdoms. And what is part of your kingdom? You are the queen of, or you are the king of, if it were a man or whatever, right? So you are in charge of your kingdom. You take care of it. You ask for what you need for your kingdom. You report back to what's happening in your kingdom, but you are in charge of that. And we're very clear on that. So if that sounds very interesting to you, if you want more of that, all of this is easier said than done. And there's a lot of varieties. There's a lot of different ways that I have helped clients create these systems of accountability. So right now I've opened up 6 spots in the Executive Edge. That is my signature leadership development training program. And it is kicking off in just a few weeks, but today is the last day to book your call to be part of that program. So if you are interested in boosting your influence, working on more effective communication, making an impact on your culture, and getting a lot of your time and attention back so that you can focus on the important strategic work on your plate, now is your chance. In 8 weeks, we can make a big difference. So the people coming through my program have seen amazing results in 8 weeks. So I'm going to let you know on what you can expect from the program. Kelsey Ann, if they want to get to book their call today, what should they do?
They should drop me in the comments.
Okay. So if you want to know more, if you want details, if you want to know if this program is a good fit for you, just drop me in the comments. Kelsey Ann is going to reach out to you. Kelsey Ann or I guess, will reach out to you and make sure that you have everything that you need, and we'll book a call. You need to put your hand up today, by the end of the day today, to be able to participate in the next cohort and what you're going to get. So let's talk about what you're going to get out of this program, because I think it's really important. It's not your typical leadership training. And that is what, people going through the program note immediately. Like after session 1, they're like, whoa, this is so different. So different. Because I don't approach leadership training like giving you knowledge. It's not about me thinking and speaking and you just listening and taking notes. I'm not going to do the thinking for you. I'm actually going to engage you to participate in every step of the program, because what you're doing through the program is you're working on what's important to you. So let's say you are working on accountability. Well, from point A to point Z in the program, you're going to be looking at everything and working on those accountability strategies. We start with an EQ leadership report. So you're going to do a say assessment. I'm going to get a report for you. It's about 20 pages. And that's where we start. We start with where you are. What's your leadership style? What are your strengths that we can leverage? What do you already do well? What do you know about leadership? And then what are those areas of opportunities? And we all have areas of opportunities and blind spots, no matter how long you have been actively developing your skills. I myself, 10 years into it, intentionally active in participating, there's always something that I'm working on, fine tuning, improving. So I meet you where you're at, and we kick off with a one-on-one coaching session. So in that one-on-one coaching session, we're going to get to dive into what's important to you. And we're going to figure out in your journey through those 8 weeks where your focus is going to be and what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be investing yourself, what is going to give you the most ROI. Then you're going to participate in 6 group training sessions. In these sessions, you can expect lots of participation. So I'm going to be giving you content. So there is some training content. There are discussions. There are activities, breakout groups, reflections. There is a lot that happens in those 2 hours. Kelsey Ann, having participated, having been there to witness other people participate, what's your perspective on these sessions?
I think they're a great weekly practice session that leaders have really embraced. They kind of block out that time on the calendar so that they can be really present within the program. And the individuals that have done just that, really, like, their ROI has been really exciting to watch, because they're blown away. And then when they get back the results, like, the results are just on how their competencies have improved. It's really exciting to see that dramatic transformation. And I'm thinking of Joanne's results that we had posted a few weeks back is what's kind of popping into my head. So
Yeah.
mhm,
And it's, seeing it black and white, but it's also the lived result
mhm,
of that, right?
mhm,
Things like, starting to break through some of your own limitations.
mhm,
Employees starting to notice, starting to say back to you, things are different. You're different. We're different. The conversations that you're having with employees, the conversations where you're having with the team changing,
mhm,
leading through change. A lot of leaders I work with, they're leading through major changes, a lot of tensions, a lot of
mhm,
changing priorities. Being able to lead employees through those changes much more easily, knowing where their team is at, knowing what is the next step to be able to move them through this change step by
mhm,
step. And, having employees happy to be there and seeing that impact on the culture. The values of the culture is changing. And, it's something interesting when people start, they're thinking about the values of their organization, but they think, or their team or themselves, and often they're aspirational values. They're what I would like my team to be in practice. It's what I want this environment to be like, but it's not like that.
mm,
Whereas by the end of those 8 weeks, you've been able to incorporate some of that, and some of those aspirational values are becoming real lived values
mhm,
because you know how to bring them forward and incorporate them in the team. So at the end of the program, so after those 6 sessions, Kelsey Ann alluded to that, we're going to do a before and after. So you're going to take your reassessment. So we're going to see where you're at and how and where you've improved and what maybe you're still needing to focus on. The before and after has been dramatic for most of the clients that have gone through the program. It's been amazing. So when I look at one, it's like not a fluke. It's like almost I expect it because it's so consistent. And we do a last coaching session. So your last coaching session is one-on-one again. And this is when we bring everything together. We make sure that we're tying up loose ends, everything is well integrated, everything that mattered to you. And then as you finish up your program, you're going to get a certificate and the badge. But throughout those 8 weeks, you also get a direct line to me. And in that direct line to me, we are constantly customizing, personalizing. This is when you walk out of a session and you're about to go into a conversation, or you want to incorporate something and you want to run something by me. You have that direct line. You can tell me, hey, Melissa, this is the situation. This is how I'm thinking about it based on what we're learning. What are your thoughts? And I can give you feedback on that. Or it could be, I really like this, and I'd like to know an idea of how I would use it in this situation, or how I might bring it into my team session, or how I might structure this conversation based on that. So that is ongoing through the program, and the people who take advantage of it get a lot. I love getting those messages. I also get a lot of the wins. So it's a really exciting thing. So all of this in 8 weeks, dramatic results. I love working with leaders who are experienced. I love working with leaders who are coming with lots of knowledge. So who is sitting around the table? You can think about who that looks like. Experienced second in command, CEOs, executive directors, high-level managers. There's a lot of great people at the table, and that is also part of the experience. There's
Definitely.
only 8 weeks, so it means it's a very intimate experience for 8 weeks, a lot of high touch support. And so if you have been interested, now's the time. 6 seats are open. They're going, but this is the time to get in on it. So drop me below. We can also drop a link if you want to check out more details, including the curriculum and what's included. You can go check it out. There's also examples of people who have participated and what they got out of the program. Anything that I missed, Kelsey Ann?
The program closes tonight. Yeah, the doors close tonight. So anybody who has kind of been thinking about it and kind of on that fence, I would recommend connecting with Melissa, or sending a DM or dropping me below, and getting on a call with Melissa. And that doesn't commit you to the program. It just commits you to looking at the opportunity and seeing if it's a fit for you, and for Melissa to see if it's a fit for the program, because where it is such a small, intimate group, we want to make sure that it's the right fit for everyone.
Yeah. And the right people at the table. Absolutely. All right. So with all this said, say hi. Let me know what you get out of this video. Let me know your thoughts about accountability. I have a lot of feelings about accountability. I work with it all the time. And I think it's fascinating. It's really important, but there is definitely some ways to practice accountability that will backfire. And there are ways that will give you what you're seeking, that will give you that time back, that will give you that focus back, that will allow you to trust your team to get the job done. And that is an incredibly good feeling to know that your partners, you're in this together, people have your back. And you can get all of this without having to chase down people or feel like you need to pressure them to do their job, and feel the frustration, right? The frustration of like, oh, please just do the thing. I've messaged you 5 times about it already, right? That's not pleasant. So done with that. Let's get back to people strategies that actually work.
Absolutely.
I want to partner with you to lead people first.
Absolutely.
So have a great day, everyone. Book your call, drop me, or check out the link. You can also book your call through the link that is down in the chat. And we'll see you next week for our next live. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.